Okay, I'm Lois.
And I'm Charlie. And we have been told and we believe that we have the largest private collection of insects in the world.
Yeah.
The story of how we met was interesting enough. I was a teaching assistant at the University of Arizona, and Lois was a student in the class that I was teaching. We've been married for almost 55 years.
He's got a million stories about insects, all of which I've heard and all of which I can fill in sentences.
And we've traveled extensively, have been to all the continents and 70 countries collecting. It fills us with pleasure to get into the field and collect, to spend the time in the field together.
Oh, you need to look at the antennae on one of these. It looks like a clown's shoe.
Well, I study weevils, and the weevils are the largest family of living organisms.
These are plant hoppers, and I think their noses are cute. I collect plant hoppers, which are insects that feed on the juices of plants, the phloem or the xylem.
With piercing, sucking mouth parts.
With piercing, sucking mouth parts.
Oh yeah, this is interesting.
When we get some insects in, they're just dead. Of course, we have to mount them, so we have to pin them or point them, and then we label them. Ah, the glue was not stiff enough and he's fallen off his point. Then after I do that, then I sort them to genus.
Each of these units, trays, holds 55 specimens on average. And we have at least 1 million weevils and 250,000 plant hoppers.
Okay, here you come, Charlie.
We are donating the collection to Arizona State University.
And there will be research done on it, which is what we wanted to have happen.
When we were entomologists at the university, we worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now we're down to 8 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a lot of work, but we both loved what we were doing, and it was sharing that was part of our life.
Yeah. Which one do you think is the prettiest?
These two.
I don't like that one.
Lois has often taken note of the fact that a very large number of entomologists are divorced.
What I recommend is, if you're going to be a taxonomist, a systematist, collect insects, you get a spouse that is another entomologist.
This has always been an obsession. Everybody collects something, and mine just happens to be antlers. My name is Jim Phillips, and I'm the Antler Man. I have over 16,000 antlers. I didn't kill all these animals to get the antlers. I'm not much of a killer. Deer and elk and moose and antelope shed their antlers every year and grow a new set of antlers. I just started walking out in the hills, and I would find one and pick it up and bring it home. There is no harm to the animal. I have good days and bad days. The most deer antlers I ever found in a day was 87. But I've hiked 11 hours and never found an antler. I keep my antlers in a shed that I built at my house. It is 60 feet long and 30 feet wide. There's a pattern to everything in here, and the way the antlers are laid out, that's the art. The reason I guess I display the antlers the way I do, respect for the antler, respect for the animal itself. The shed may seem full, but when I look around, I can still find places to put the antlers. As long as I can get out and get around in the mountains, I'll continue to collect. I get the same thrill today, 59 years later, as I did when I was a 10-year-old. And there's very few things you can say that about. My wife has plans on me stopping. My daughters have a plan on me stopping, but I have no plans on ever stopping.
You know, many of these meteorites are billions of years old. Imagine you holding that in your hand, the earliest part of the solar system. It feels amazing. My name is Naveen Jain, and I'm an entrepreneur. I started the collection about 5 years ago, and many people would say that I probably do have the largest collection of meteorites in private hands. When you look at the stuff and people say it's just a rock, until you see in the microscope and say, oh my God, what you have really in your hand is a space gems. I am just such a curious person. So when you're holding a piece of moon in your hand, it's not just a piece of moon. It really is symbolic of what we as humans are, which are explorers. When we get inspired, what do? We look up. Every star that we see is really 1 square inch of our own galaxy. So when something falls on Earth, we have no idea what body it came from. This is a great meteorite. This has 20 plus amino acids. So it's quite likely these amino acids became the foundation for who we are today. So when someone says we're looking for aliens, all we have to do is look around us. We all could be aliens. This is a great meteorite, but the white stuff that you see is the earliest part of our universe, and many of these things are formed at the time of the Big Bang. There is no doubt in my mind that space is going to be a next frontier. And it's a very simple reason. Every single thing that we value on Earth is in abundance in space. We are just nothing but a tiny pale blue dot.
It can be beetles that come off a cactus. It can be the dried urine of a cow, little insects that grow on an oak tree, a chunk of lead that's soaked in vinegar. It's truly amazing. We're in Harvard University outside the Forbes Pigment Collection. Pigment is a very small particle of coloured material that is mixed in with a binding medium. The pigment gives paint its colour. The Forbes Pigment Collection has been brought together over several decades. We have around 2,500 pigments. We have a lot of very unusual and very rare colours. So this is, I think, one of the more unusually named pigments. It's called dragon's blood. It doesn't come from dragons, it comes from rattan palms, and it gives a very bright red pigment. The unusual aspect of mummy has to do with its source rather than the colour itself. And that comes from Egyptian mummies. And it's the resin that's applied to the outside of the bandages. I think the rarest colour that we have is actually an entire ball of Indian yellow. And this is a pigment that is made from the dried urine of cows that are fed only on mango leaves. If you're looking at a work of art and you want to understand what is original and what's a restoration, you will take a tiny sample of pigment and analyze it. A lot of the pigments are actually toxic, so you don't want to handle the pigments and then go out to lunch. There's a green called emerald green that has an arsenic centre to it. We can use them for telling if something is real or not. People will say this is by a certain artist, and we can look at the materials that are used and decide if those materials were available during that artist's lifetime. If not, then we have to look at who might have painted that picture. I can't pick a personal favourite. It's like asking to pick a favourite child. No, the other 2,400 would feel left out.
I guess it is pretty green. To me, it's not. It wasn't just always all green. Now I'm quite green. My name is Elizabeth Sweetheart, and I am the Green Lady. Everything is green. I brought green counter, and then I got green knobs, and then all the accessories. We even painted the front door green. If I find something that I really like in terms of clothing and what I wear, I make it green. These are my overalls. I grew up with my family in Nova Scotia, and they didn't know what to do with me. I wanted to be an artist. I started wearing green when my dad invited me to visit Florida. It was really exciting for me to go because we hadn't really connected, and he didn't really care for an artist. The water is aqua green, deep, rich greens. I painted all the palm trees, and from that point on, I started adding little bits of green because it was like a lucky day that Dad asked me to go visit. It's been around 17 to 20 years. I continue to wear green because the way I dress makes other people smile and say, "Oh, the Green Lady." Can I have a selfie with you? I think people really, really like the belief that you like something enough to really carry it through. When you're young, you tend to think you look good in black. As you get older, you realize color is so much fun. I will continue to be green because it's so positive. I think when it's not, then I'll change to my next favorite thing.